if they get into, here's the point I was going to make, is let's say this global government takes over, and there is rebellions that occur in different countries. The United States has a bunch of people that stand up against them, and so does Canada and the UK and Germany and whatever. They don't care because they don't mind killing as many of us as they have to, because that also is population reduction.
And Henry Kissinger's State Department Memorandum 200 states that. They said, we'll use famine, we'll use war, we'll use population reduction to carry this out. And the public better grow up and face this. Calls are coming up at the bottom of the hour, but when we come back, I got some other key questions for Colonel Craig Roberts. That's RifleWarrior.com. I'm Alex Jones. Our websites are PrisonPlanet.tv and INFOWARS.com. In constant sorrow. It's hard having my job and knowing that we've bought over 100 government policy books and documents directly, from government organizations and university publishers, where they said 40 years ago, we're going to get all the American people on psychotropic drugs. We're going to break up the family. We're going to train the kids to tattle on everybody. We're going to use phony environmentalism to take everybody's resources. We're going to raise the taxes till everybody goes bankrupt and is dependent on government. And then to now see it all happening and to know these are horrible, wicked, murderous criminals, and we're making some headway, but not fast enough, and I just want to bring these criminals to justice. Craig Roberts, how do you deal with this?
A long time ago, when I was doing lectures across the country, I'd say, look, I love the government. I just hate the criminals that are inside of it and use the power to corrupt everything that, in violation of the Constitution and the laws. I mean, they're rogue. They run rampant. They do whatever they want to do. But yet, if you break the law, they come down with all of the king's horses and all of the king's men. We have got to educate ourselves and everybody we know that the U.S. government is the bottom government, not the top. They're not the leaders. Those representatives we send to Washington are not our political leaders. They're our representatives. We're the leaders. We're the bosses. The federal government is the very bottom government. It's supposed to be a homeowners association in the District of Columbia where the states meet to resolve issues and to look out for the common good. That's all it's supposed to be for. The 10th Amendment specifically says if it's not in this Constitution, you can't do it, guys. You politicians. You have to go by what's in the Constitution. They violate it every single day. I've taught when I had to go testify before Congress in 1995. I spent some time visiting with some of the senators and congressmen up there, and I said, "Do you ever do a litmus test on the laws you pass?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Do you compare it to what the 10th Amendment says? Is that law legal for you to even come up with on a national level, or is it in violation of the Constitution?" The 10th Amendment says if it's not covered in one of the aspects of the Constitution, that law is null and void upon inception. And you guys are up here passing stuff in violation of the Constitution, which makes you criminals. It makes you traitors. You're guilty of treason. And they just look at you like, well, what are you talking about? We're the bosses.
Craig, I want to go back here. Tell people briefly the General Barry McCaffrey story. Telling the young graduates in the military, the officers, that we're going to have to use foreign troops in America.
Well, this was at the CASQ class in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and my nephew, a young captain just back from Somalia, was going there, and it's the class you take before you go to Command and General Staff College. And when his class went through, the graduation speaker was General Barry McCaffrey. And when it was over, Brian called me, and he said, hey, I taught the boy well ever since he was an Eagle Scout. He knew all about the CFR and all that sort of stuff. And he said they had introduced this General Barry McCaffrey as a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. So I started taking copious notes. He says, and let me tell you what he said. He said that with the build down of the military, this was during the Clinton administration. He says with the build down, I hate that word, of the military. And the shape the military is in right now, if we get deployed on 2 or more fronts overseas, that's the key. This is 1994, 95, right in there. 2 or more fronts overseas, then if we have a declared national emergency at home, we will be forced to rely upon foreign assets to patrol our streets. foreign assets. That means UN troops.
And that mirrors what Henry Kissinger said.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the plan. That's why we're still funneling all this money into the UN, is that we can pull in people from everywhere, from Manchuria to Russia to China to Mongolia, who knows, and divide the country up and give them each a part. You know, I heard earlier when the young man was talking about whether or not American troops would fire upon American citizens here on the home front, and my sources in the military at higher levels say that there's no way that's going to happen. Well, the word's out that, you know, these people tipping their hand in Washington right now has got the military pretty much jazzed up against them, and they know it. So what do? They send more troops to Afghanistan to get them out of the country. If they start using foreign troops, it's not going to be a problem. It's not going to be an issue. They'll fire on whoever they're told to. Now here's the thing. I talked to, several years ago, Marina Porter, who previous to that was Marina Oswald.
Stay there. We're going to come back, finish this story, and then, because it's so important for people to hear, briefly tell your story about when you died and came back to life on the operating table. Then we're going to take some final phone calls here with Colonel Craig Roberts. Always amazing to have him on with us. RifleWarrior.com is his site. Our sites are PrisonPlanet.com and INFOWARS.com. Going back to Colonel Craig Roberts. Okay, finishing up your Barry McCaffrey story. Go ahead.
Well, when my nephew called, he said that you know, with McCaffrey being a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, he knew that he would probably be a globalist, and so he started taking these notes, and he told that story that should we need troops on our soil, and our guys are all committed overseas, we would call on foreign assets, which meant UN troops. Well, they wouldn't have a problem dealing with Americans that are armed and form a resistance. And when I talked to Marina Porter, who was originally Marina Oswald, Lee Harvey Oswald's widow, she said, you know, Mr. Roberts, she said, in Russia, she said when they had to deal with the people, with the army, she said they would take the troops from the north and they would send them to the south. And they would take the troops from the south and they would send them to the north. In other words, Ukrainians would go north and Russians would go to the Ukraine or Chechnya or something like that. He says, and then because of the culture difference and no one was related to anybody, they had no problems in shooting the people. So that's the same mentality. You take people from someplace else and you bring them here, it's going to be like sending us to Afghanistan or Iraq or Vietnam or Korea or whatever. We're shooting somebody else besides our own people. Well, meanwhile, they've got people here shooting our family. So that's the mentality of that type of an operation.
Well, let me expand on that, though, because I know you're a police officer and SWAT team guy and police helicopter pilot, so you're deep into that culture. And we've had long car rides together, traveling to events where we've had discussions about this. And the average police officer is just a good guy. Their family's in it. They get out of the military. It's the job they take. But the commanders, the system, I mean, take our Austin police chief. He took a federal grant. They passed a law at the state level. They take blood without warrants now. They just announced no more warrants. I was at a lawyer's office signing some documents last night. The lawyer happened to be a former Travis County judge, and he brought it up and said, I just can't believe America's turned into this. They have militarized the police. They have taught the police, taser somebody if they even argue with you for 2 seconds. The police were caught in Canada last year at the SPP, North American Union meeting, dressed up like anarchists, attacking other cops. People videotaped their boots and their staged arrests. The Royal Mounted Police admitted they staged it. Last year at the DNC in Denver, I was there. It was later confirmed. We had our suspicions but couldn't confirm it. But the police blew the whistle and said, yeah, they had other Denver police attack other police for the news cameras and didn't even tell the police that they were being attacked. Only the commander told them, stand down, let them throw bottles at you. That was declassified in Seattle in 99. And I sent my camera guys, Rob Dude, no criminal record, got arrested for filming police. They said no one in the city is allowed outside day or night. 1 million people in the city of Pittsburgh. G20's coming to town. And we videotaped, and this is coming out in the new film, with sound cannons, the police and military driving around shooting people coming out of stores. Old women with shopping bags would walk out during the day, nowhere near the convention center. Cops would come up with billy clubs and say, get back, you're not allowed on the street. And the old woman goes, I just was shopping. The police dog bites her. Then no one was resisting them. They're sound cannoning and attacking 9-year-old kids in their front yards playing. People on their front porches, you know, it's old-fashioned in Pittsburgh, driving by, shooting them, announcing, like out of a science fiction movie, that no right to redress, no right to assemble under this code. We played the video here many times, and they would fire it at them. Then, even though it was over Friday night, they went to the university, to the kids out at the park, and said, you're not allowed to assemble. Like the police didn't just want martial law. They brought them in from all over the country, and the military, and then later the G20 met, they had private goons in police uniforms. Like, you can pull up the video, guys, snatching and grabbing. Just go to YouTube and type in snatch and grab secret arrest in Pittsburgh. And guys would just jump out of vehicles and grab people and drag them away, setting the precedent